Wow.
That made me feel good.
Baruch
Baruch Hashem.
Rabbi Levitt,
Mm.
Horeb.
So, Lou, we're on for today for class?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're up to 223.
Good morning, Rabbi Levitt, and good morning,
Good
everybody.
morning, Roy.
Evening.
Good morning. Okay, so we're in Lulav, and now section 223, the observance of Sukkot, of Sukkah rather. Talking about the mitzvah of Sukkah. Okay, we go to Mayor to start off.
Okay, so 223. Beautiful. It says, if the observance of Sukkah during the festival of Sukkot frees us from the bonds with which we tie ourselves to worldly possessions as the basis of our life and the anchor of our hopes, if it teaches us humility despite our material wealth and trusting God even without it, then the observance of Lulav causes us to rise to things higher, simcha, rejoicing before God in all that he has bestowed upon us. The Sukkah negates material possessions as ultimate value. The Lulav links us again with our dependence upon our goods and chattels. The Sukkah teaches us not to appraise too highly our worldly goods, the Lulav to value them at their true worth. The Sukkah raises us above our property to God alone. The Lulav teaches us to be imbued with the Spirit of God and even to exalt our possessions as God-given. The Sukkah prevents us from becoming too earthly. The Lulav reminds us not to soar too high above the earthly. The Sukkah protects us from being debased by our wealth. The Lulav teaches us to cherish our possessions and dedicate them to sacred purposes as the gift of God. The lesson of the Sukkah is the acquisition of goods is not the sole aim of life. The Lulav teaches us to apprehend goods as instruments for our way of life before God. And so it brings us simcha, joy in living before God in a life of godliness. For if life is understood thus, it makes no difference whether you attain much or little. The assessment of your life lies in whether you have lived it dutifully with your much or your little. From this wells up the eternally joyful fountain of life, sublime in the service of God, of simcha before God, of that happiness which rejoices him who possesses much or little as a gift of God, by which he can fulfill the will of God on earth. The happiness of living in the presence of God, your God, a happiness which is eternal as life itself and as God who is its source.
Okay, interesting the way that Rav Hirsch is saying that the Sukkah teaches us to minimize the acquisition of wealth as a goal, and if we and the Lulav teaches us on the contrary not to say that it's nothing, but to that it is something, and to recognize that its value, and its value is not simply to acquire it, to get more and have a lot, but it's what you do with it. And what you do with it is to use it for avodas Hashem, and to express your simcha, that what you do have, you're doing it in the avodas Hashem. You're lifnei Hashem. You're before Hashem. So it's very they work together. In other words, the sukkah works together with the lulav. That's why he says if a person learns the lesson of the sukkah, so then he will be able to use the lulav to attain to rise to things higher, to rise to simcha, which that is the voda of sukkahs. Samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha. Your simcha is that you're going to be before Hashem Elokecha. And that's if you learn the lesson of the sukkah, of not becoming so materialistic as to view your whole goal and objective and importance in life as the acquisition of wealth. He says it's it could be a simcha equally with someone who has a lot or someone who has a little possessions, because it's not how much you have, it's what you do with it. It's how you use it. If you use it the right way, so then you have a tremendous simcha that you're using your what Hashem gave you in the right way. Okay, very nice. 224. We go to Lou to continue the reading.
The halakhic considerations relating to these four species are mainly: 1, the signs by which the species specified in the Torah may be recognized; 2, that the plants representing our gifts from God are without blemish; 3, the indispensable requirement that a person should carry out any symbolic act ordained by God in as dignified a manner as possible. A, lulav. The leaves of the palm branch must not be too much separated from one another. The lulav is not valid in the following cases: if the greater portion of the leaves is hanging down, if because of their stiffness they can no longer be tied together around their central stalk, if the leaves are torn open at the back in the greater part of their length, if the leaves are by nature single instead of double, or if they grow only on one side, if the topmost leaf, which runs along the stalk, is torn open at the back right through to the stalk, or if it is split open to the length of one tefach when another lulav is available, when the leaves do not lie upon one another or next to one another, and the tip of one does not reach the bottom of another, if there are altogether only 2 leaves, even if they cover the whole central stalk, if most of the leaves or the greater part of the stalk appear dry and brittle to the touch, if the tips of most of the upper leaves are snapped off, or even only the top leaf of the stalk, if the stalk is split so that it can be parted into 2, if the stalk has prickles, if it is withered, if it is twisted forward to the right or to the left, but not if it tilts backward, if the tip of the stalk is bent over, all these cases render the lulav invalid for all the 7 days of the festival, except when the lulav is split or when the back of the leaves is divided. The latter make the lulav invalid only for the first day. Myrtle. The myrtle is invalid if the wooden tip is snapped off or another is available. If the leaves have dropped off and the three leaves leaved pairs no longer form the majority, where there are more red and black berries, green ones do not matter, than leaves, and they have not been picked off. If the leaves are so withered that they crumble and are no longer green, but white, and there is not at least one fresh green leaf left at the tip. If the wooden tip is withered, the myrtle should, if possible, be entirely of three-leaf pairs of leaves, which grow out of one point as a trefoil. At least the greater part of the branch should be like this. If this is not possible, one should use two-leaf branches. If this too is not available, one may take three-leaf branches in which one of the leaves does not grow out from the same spot as the other, but above them. If in a two-leaf branch, one leaf is torn off beyond the hadas required extent, it is invalid. The willow. The characteristics of the willow are long leaves. The edge of the leaf is smooth or finely serrated, and the stem red or becoming red later. Where these characteristics exist, it may be regarded as willow, even though it is not found by the water. If it is withered, or if most of the leaves have dropped off, or been ripped, torn, or split, or if the wooden tip has snapped off, it is invalid. Esrog. An esrog is invalid in all the following cases. If it is so dry that a thread drawn through it does not become damp. If the thick peel is perforated right through from one side to the other, or even if only to the core, although nothing may be missing in the required size of the esrog, unless no other esrog is available. If some part of the esrog is missing, however small, unless no other esrog is available. A hole the size of an isser, even if it does not go through, in all cases where the hole goes right through. I think I'll pass the baton.
Wow.
Second line on page 134.
Okay. Okay, Roy, you want to take over?
Okay. The hard size is right. If it has become rotten inside, oh, by the way, the Issa is an ancient Hebrew coin, about 1/24 of a denar. Oh well. Right. If it has become rotten inside, even if the core is still there, if another is available. If split above at the tip, if the outer thin skin is completely peeled off up to the right, up to the size of a seller, which is an ancient Hebrew coin, equal to 2 common shekels. Although it may appear undamaged, unless no other etrog is available. The point bearing the rest of the blossom, piton, has come off, except if it is missing naturally. If the stem is broken off, unless no other etrog is available. If there are blisters in 2 or 3 places, when another etrog is available, or if they are clustered together over half the etrog, or in all cases where even the smallest blister appears at the tip. If the slightest blister or strangely coloured spot appears from the tip to the extension of the tip, except in such unusual spots which look like blisters but do not stand out in relief and which frequently occur, provided the blister cannot be removed without damaging the rest of the etrog. If swollen, rotten, preserved, cooked, mildew. If there are spots, black or white, together in one place, covering over half, or only a few, but in 2 or 3 places, if the etrog is spherical in shape, if the shape has been changed by human skill, if it is green as grass without any spot whatever that has become yellow, if the etrog is smaller than an egg. And now there are general considerations, which is now starting at paragraph C. General. If there are absolutely no others available, you may use the invalid ones that are available, but without reciting the bracha, the blessing. It is intrinsic in the mitzvah and fundamental that the 4 components of the lulav become invalid if borrowed, as they must constitute entirely a dedication of what is your own property. The required length of the myrtle and the willow is 12 thumb widths of the lulav stalk, 16 thumb widths. The minimum sizes are at least 10 and 13 and 1/3 thumb widths wide. And 1/3 thumb widths respectively. The lulav stalk is 16. The minimum sizes are at least 10 and 13 and 1/3 thumb widths respectively. There's no limit to the length of the stalk of the lulav. Should always protrude 3 and 1/3 thumb breadths over the other 4 species. One should take 1 lulav, 2 willow branches, 3 myrtle twigs, and bind them tightly together, usually with lulav leaves. The myrtle should be higher than the willow. There are usually 3 rings on the lulav for the purpose of binding together. The 4 species combine together to form and fulfill one religious idea, and if one of them is missing, so is the realization of that idea. In order that, in spite of all circumstances, the remembrance of the mitzvah should never fade, one should make use of those available, but without reciting a blessing. However, no other species may be used in place of the valid ones, which are not available, nor may anything be added to the 4 species. In order to fulfill the religious obligations of a lulav, one should take the lulav with everything attached to it in one's right hand, as one does with one's own property, and the etrog in the left hand, all tops pointing upwards, in order to express symbolically that we recognize these products as God-given, as indeed everything in the universe is God's, and these 4 species but represent symbolically all that God has created for man everywhere. One turns the lulav to the east, the south, the west, the north, upwards, downwards, declaring thereby everything which is granted to us by the blessings of God everywhere at all times is a means of shaped to us by him for dedicating ourselves in gladness to fulfill his will. Only the time one devotes to one's active working life, namely the daytime, is fitting for the devotion of all that one has in the service of God. And so one performs the mitzvah of lulav only by day and not by night. Someone else wants to continue?
Okay, Alan. Alan, are you there?
You're muted. We cannot hear you, Aaron. You are muted.
Back.
That's better.
Okay.
Page 225.
Yes, halfway down the first paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
What's the first word on the line?
Hmm?
The first word on the line.
And. The last word in the
and-
line is and.
And at all times?
And so one performs a mitzvah of lulav. And
Lower?
last line, the last word. 13 lines down from the top.
Again, what's the first word?
The first word in the line is fitting. Is.
Is fitting, okay. It's fitting for the devotion of all that one has to serve to the service of Hashem.
Right, now
Yeah.
you start from the word and.
And so one performs the mitzvah of lulav only by day and not by night. The time for the performance of the mitzvah of lulav starts at sunrise. Lulav is taken especially into one's hand during the Hallel hymn, which sings of God revealed in history and the foundation of Israel. For in the lulav is manifested the basis of Israel's task, namely that its fulfillment alone must be our inspiration through everything that Hashem has granted us. In the same sense, one makes a circuit with the lulav round the bima, especially directed for the reading of the law. After the scrolls of the law have been placed there, as is formally done at the altar at the temple. To make the circuit around an object expresses a choice. That object is as a central point of one's labors. To go around the Torah with the lulav represents nothing but our labors for the fulfillment of the Torah with all the means which God has endowed us and to keep within the circles prescribed by it. Israel's lamp of life began to dim, not as a result of an underestimation of their material wealth, but rather as a result of their overrating this, and of their consequent overweening pride in possession and faith in the work of man. And therefore, Israel's guardians, the prophets, instituted the beating of a willow twig on the last day, when a circuit was made 7 times round the altar, or the Torah denoted thereby Israel's compelling need, namely to keep aloof from the self-seeking pride and the glorification of man's strength. The will reminds us of those realms in which the mastery of man's spirit over things material manifests itself. Most of these things which first and foremost nourish pride, there are thus are the spirit and significance of the sukkah transferred to lulav. According to the ordinance of the Torah, the obligation of lulav applies to the first day only, with us the first 2 nights, in the case of matzah, and only in the temple, where above all, as a festival offering show, in the meetings of the festival was manifested anew with every day of Sukkot, was instituted for all the 7 days. Since the destruction of the temple, the duty of observing the mitzvah of the rulers had been generally instituted for all the 7 days in remembrance of the temple usage. For this reason, much this that renders the rule of invalid for the first day is not invalidating it on the other days. For instance, they borrowed or perforated ephod and everything else. However, there is no difference. On the Sabbath, even as the first day of the festival, moves must not be taken.
Okay, very good. And a round of applause for the lulav. Chapter 31. Wow. Spoke a lot about the lulav and all the other halachas of the Daled Minim as well. Yeah, because the lulav, that's the, yeah. That's the way of referring to the all four species is to say the lulav. So that's the chapter is called lulav, and it deals with all of the Daled Minim. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so now we go to Shofar, chapter 32, and we go back to Meir to start off the reading of the Shofar.
Okay, it looks like we have two sources here. It says, "Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall be a solemn rest unto you, a memorial proclaimed with the blast of horns, a holy convocation." That's from Leviticus. And or Midbar, let's see, it says, "And in the 7th month, on the first day, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no manner of servile work. It is a day of blowing the horn unto you." Okay.
Okay.
226. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, the day upon which our preparation for Yom Kippur begins, the day which calls us from our continuous worldly outlook and our labors for the future back to introspection and to God. On that day, in order that we may examine in his presence our past life and recall all that we have built so as to test its contents, and that as a result of this introspection and self-examination may rise to a cleaner life on that day, Rosh Hashanah. Sound the Truah, ponder it well.
Okay. Very good. All right, 227. We go to Lou to continue the reading.
227. As our sages have indicated to us, we know from Numbers chapter 10 that this teruah is composed of tekiah and teruah and tekiah, of a plain and broken and a plain note. And from the same source, we know too the meaning of these sounds. In order to gather many people together in one place, only one plain note was sounded, tekiah. To disband the camp, tekiah, trua, tekiah, a plain, a broken, and a plain note were sounded. Thus, the plain note calls different elements in one direction, while the broken one causes an upheaval, a violent shaking, a movement. Thus, the note ordering the breaking up of the camp summoned one mind spread over various occupations towards one single thought by means of the single note. 2, the cessation and breaking up of this preoccupation by means of the broken note. And 3, a further advance in a definite direction by means of the final plain note. After having had its effect upon the mind, the plain note brings all the various tendencies of the mind converging upon one point. The broken note penetrates, shatters, moves, softens from this one point. The final plain tone reassembles and redirects the disintegrated mind along one straight path.
Wow.
So I have one question actually,
Yeah.
because today when we blow shofar, we actually have a third note called shvarim, I think. And he does not mention that. At least not
He's
yet.
not
Maybe he will.
mentioning Shvarim. Mhm.
There's okay. At 231, it looks like, or 230, there's no, 231 has it. I guess it explains it there. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, before you get to Shvarim, we got to try to figure out what he's explaining over here for Trua and Tekiah.
Right, that's
He's
true
got a
too.
whole dissertation over here.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out. What's he's deriving his dissertation from the way that when Klal Yisrael would blow the Hatzotzros to communicate two things. What does he say? He said yeah, we know from Numbers chapter 10 that the Trua is composed of Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah. And then he said, from the same source, we know too the meaning of these sounds. In order to gather many people together in one place, only one plain note was sounded. There he's talking about the Hatzotzros. To gather people together. That was one plain note, a tekiah. Plain, he means to say it's not broken, it's just a long note that sounds the same all the way through. To disband the camp. What does that mean? That means that they're traveling. They got to get ready to travel.
Right.
To disband the camp, there was a tekiah, trua, and tekiah. A plain and a broken and a plain. So he says the plain note calls different elements into one direction. That's gathering people together, the different people, and they're gathered together. So they're different elements into one direction for one focus. And the broken one causes an upheaval, he says, a violent shaking, a movement. that's that corresponds to disbanding the camp. Thus, the note ordering the breaking up of the camp summoned the following thing. The mind spread over various occupations towards one single thought by means of the single note. Cessation and breaking up of this preoccupation by means of the broken note, a further advance in a definite direction by means of the final plain note. Okay. I guess I'm sleeping. I can't figure this out too well. Okay, let's go further. Let's see what we can see along the way. If we have any time? No, we don't have any time. Okay. All right. So that's it. A great day to Mayor.
Okay, everyone should have a good day.
You too, Mayor. See you.
We're
You.
disbanding the camp.
Yes.
Everybody's gonna go their directions. Okay.
Very good. Yes, kayak to everyone.
All two.
Okay.
We'll be back. Okay, welcome back, everybody. And good morning to Phil. Ready to go with Baba Metzia.
Be back in a minute.
Okay. Okay, we got two. Let's see what we got to. Oh, yeah. Okay, we actually got up to Hechi Dummy yesterday on Vav Amud Aleph, Daf Vav Amud Aleph. And we are, oh, we even got further than that. Oh, yeah, we got further than that.